Under Chief Diaz's leadership, our police service has met all but 2 of the federal consent decree provisions, and progress on the remaining 2, discipline, accountability, and crowd management, is progressing well. Together, we've launched a dual dispatch pilot with the new care department that I think many of you have followed. We've signed a new contract with the Seattle Police Officers Union and implemented a new recruitment and retention path. I'll rattle a few statistics that demonstrates Chief Diaz's leadership. Right now, homicide year over year is down 44%. Total reported crime is down 5%. Since the SPA contract was approved, we've been receiving around 17 to 19 applications a day. And at the same time last year, we were at 5 to 6 applications a day. That's a 300% increase. Again, total reported crime continues to decrease this year, and the number of, quite frankly, the number of events we're seeing, the number of interactions that are positive we're seeing, as demonstrated by our applications under the consent decree under this chief's leadership, has been outstanding. I first met Chief Diaz, who, by the way, served with the Seattle Police Department for 27 years. I should also mention that he's the president of the Police Executive Research Forum, PERF, which is a reputable organization that does some outstanding work. I first met Chief Diaz around 2007, 2008 in community, where he's established himself as a community-based kind of person. He has credibility in many organizations, particularly in underrepresented or black and brown communities, people of color. And I would be the first to say that his integrity, in my mind, is beyond reproach. And he is a friend, and I want to thank him for his service. We are now looking at the internal culture, of course, at the police department. We are trying to create a representative department of who we are at our best, a culture that we can stand in any city and say we are truly the best, realizing that there are cultural issues in darn near every police department in this country. We want to stand shoulder to shoulder with everyone that talks about race discrimination, gender discrimination, diversity, inclusivity, that we model our values. Recent allegations of discrimination and prejudice and harassment in the department, as you well know, has caused me to appoint an independent and objective investigator to review these allegations and the case files that have been completed. This work continues to be underway. We support that work, and I also reviewed the report on the perspectives of our female officers and found their feedback incredibly important. So Chief Diaz and I had many discussions over the years, and it is I think he should be commended by suggesting that we put the needs of the city first. We put the needs of the police department first. He's agreed to set aside and to work on special projects and realize the kind of culture change that we want perhaps could be better served with him stepping aside. We also want to make sure that anyone that has any complaints within the department do not have a threat of retaliation or any blowback, so to speak, while the investigation occurs. I want to personally, again, thank Chief Diaz for his service and for his continued dedication to the city of Seattle. And I look forward to continuing working with him in the police department in that regard. Sue Rohr is uniquely qualified right now to step into this position. She'll be, in my opinion, as mayor, an outstanding leader for our police department, focused on strengthening recruitment, advancing institutional culture change, and most importantly, working to create safety for all of our neighbors. In my conversation with Chief Diaz, somewhat of a personal nature, I just talked about the amount of litigation. It has to be somewhat distracting. He's a human being, and a good human being at that. And so the question in terms of, can you continue to evaluate or practice the type of excellence that we demand in the city while addressing the allegations? Going back to Sue Rohr, she has a history of leadership in modern policing, in culture change, in recruitment, As you well know, she served as King County Sheriff, the Executive Director of the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission, and a member of President Obama's Task Force on 21st Century Policing. She is an expert in recruiting, in national best practices in modern policing, and in public safety strategies rooted in a commitment to keeping all people safe. We should be honored that Chief Rohr has agreed to step up and serve the great people of Seattle. She's also a subject matter expert or advisor to the 30 by 30 initiative, which I think many of you know is a national effort to see women comprise 30% of police recruits by the year 2030. Her insight and leadership in this area will be critical as we work to recruit more women officers and ensure the department reflects our values as a city. Simply put, she's the right person at the right moment to lead SPD into its next chapter. And we're grateful that she put retirement on pause to help our city, help our department, help all of you listening to me right now. You will hear from Chief Diaz in a minute and Chief Rohr in a minute, but let me also make one thing clear. We will immediately commence a national search for the next permanent police chief. Chief Rohr has made it clear to me that she will not be a candidate for the permanent appointment. She will work with former Chief Kathy O'Toole that we are in consultation with to help identify a list of qualified semi-finalist candidates. Let me also say this, that culture change is very hard. I'm intentionally looking outside of the department to perhaps tap some of the talent in other cities, people with lived experience that may help us change culture. I'm very proud of our Seattle Police Department. Let me make that clear. When you look at the use of force numbers, you look at what's going on with limited resources, they make me proud as a mayor. So we will commence a national search for a next permanent chief of police. The interim chief, Chief Rohr, would not apply for that position. And I feel very confident that we will have a chief that can help us change the culture and create the police department that we all could be so very, very proud of. And with that, I'm going to ask Chief Diaz to say a few words, and then Chief Rohr, and then I'll be more than happy to answer some questions. Chief Diaz, you have the floor, sir.
Okay. When I took on the role as Chief of Police over 4 years ago, I knew it would come with many challenges. The city was at a peak of racial reckoning with protests and riots daily. There were calls to reimagine policing, a consent decree that had to be reset, a push to defund the police, violent crime on the rise, a culture that required change. And along with my command staff, I dove in to find solutions. In 4 years, we got back on track with the consent decree. I created Before the Badge, a nationally recognized program. I implemented a system to assess bias policing. I revamped our early intervention system, and I invested in officer wellness. Implemented an extensive plan for race and social justice. We reinvented crowd management, and we have nearly eliminated serious use of forces. Violent crime is down. Officer complaints are down significantly, and we're taking more guns off the street than ever before. We've recovered a number of drugs, and we've saved countless lives. We did this all with the help of creating a third public safety department as well. I've accomplished so much in the 4 years as chief, but there's more work to be done. I passed that challenge along to my predecessor, and I will continue to support the city as I transition to this new role. I want to thank the men and women of the Seattle Police Department for their hard work and the community that has supported us through every challenge. Thank you.
Well done, Chief.
And he served us well. And I want to thank you for your continued leadership. You can't make up that kind of heart, and he's dedicated 27 years of public service to the city. And it is because of his commitment to the city, and I'll be just candid with all of you, as I don't know how to be. He gets calls all the time to lead up other departments. He's committed to the city. And so I want to publicly thank you for your strong leadership, for your continued support. And with that, I'll introduce Chief Rohr, Susan Rohr, and I gave your bio, but the mic is yours.
Thank you, sir. Oh, boy, that is, you can see why this is going to be a tough challenge, because I've got some big shoes to fill here. I am incredibly honored to be asked to step in and steer the ship as the mayor identifies a new chief. I just have a couple things that I want to say. First, to the men and women of the Seattle Police Department. You're going through some turbulence right now. I recognize that, and I want to do whatever I can to reassure you we're going to get through this. The first thing I'm going to do, first day in office, tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, I'm going to start by listening. I want to hear from the men and women of the Seattle Police Department what you're seeing, what your ideas are, what you need. I need to understand what you're all facing on the street. I also need you to be brutally honest and open with me so that I can understand. Armed with that information, I am going to do my very best in the short time that I'm here to get you the tools and support that you need to deliver good policing to the people we serve. The Seattle Police Department has incredible talent that sometimes doesn't get recognized, and my goal is to make sure that the community gets to see the great work that's being done and build on that some more. To the people of Seattle, I know there are communities that are really grieving with this change, and I understand that. I'm also going to start, Reverend Walden, by listening to people. I want to understand what we can do together to improve people's sense of safety and to gain your trust. I know that's going to be a tough road, but we're going to do it. It's going to take me a lot of time to do this because I know the residents and the businesses in Seattle are not one big monolithic block. Everybody's unique, every community's unique, and I'm going to take the time necessary to listen and learn what your needs are, what your ideas are, and what we can do together to continue improving safety. Finally, several people have asked me, why did I take this job? I was perfectly happy with my grandkids, doing a lot of work in the consulting world on trying to improve the profession of policing. But I have to say, I feel a little uncomfortable standing on the sidelines preaching about what leaders should do. And I decided it's time to put up or shut up. So I'm going to jump into the arena again, not for a long time, but long enough to try and help my brothers and sisters that I've watched from across the street for so many years. There's still a few people that are as old as me, still in the Seattle Police Department, and I'm gonna need a lot of help, and I'm gonna have to gain wisdom. Eric, I work with your dad. I know your dad better than you, but I really am. I'm really excited to meet the men and women inside the Seattle Police Department that I don't yet know, because I know they have a lot of good ideas, and I know they've got good hearts, and I want to help them get those hearts out on display. So, Mayor, thank you again for your confidence. I won't let you go.
Thank you. Okay.
You can tell us about. And secondly, just with no formal firm leadership in place right now with these changes, can you tell the people, is Seattle safe? Talk about the public safety part of it.
Sure. Thanks for the question. First question, will there be command staff changes? We're discussing that now. Interim Chief Thur will make some decisions, and those discussions are occurring now. And number two, the city should have the ultimate faith in our police department. They're showing outstanding leadership. This is how you get better. How? You evaluate yourself. You hire people to give you feedback whether you want it or not. You have open dialogue with proven leaders. You put your own egos to the side and you say, we can do and we can be better. So the people of Seattle should feel good about this move. We don't make panic moves, we make strategic moves. And if there's one takeaway from this press conference, is I stand with this fine leader, that it's his sacrifice for 27 years that we are building upon. So the people of Seattle should have the utmost confidence that we are trending in the right direction, with the right policies and the right people, and we're going to keep on keeping on. Next question, please.
Okay, we'll go to Deborah.
Mayor, Deborah Horn from Caro 7. You've said glowing things about outgoing Chief Diaz. What was the straw that broke the camel's back? And then I do want to ask Sue Guar a question as well.
Okay. So, there was not one event, one straw that broke the camel's back, to use your description. My executive team and I, working with the police department, we are all about strategy and implementation. We're all about calibrating the issues of the city. And so, again, given the amount of litigation that has persisted, given by the interviews that we're having right now looking at one of the gender discrimination claims or harassment and hostile work environment, that we ask ourselves openly and honestly, number one, will the investigation, can we make sure that it is not impeded in any way, such that we have a good investigation, good recommendations? Might there be a threat of retaliation that we have to concern ourselves with? And if we're really committed to culture change as we are, should we make strategic changes? I actually signaled this about a month ago when asked the question openly. I said, I am always evaluating my department heads. The best thing a mayor could do is to make sure people at the right time are making the right decisions. And Chief Diaz is a human being. Certainly every time someone files a complaint against his department, it affects his ability to make some of the decisions. And so this was a collaborative process, but there was not one event that triggered anything.
Do you believe the claims that were made against him?
So I will not comment on any litigation. I think that's an unwise move by any stretch of the imagination. There's a process for that. It's called due process for a reason. And so we'll let the litigation and the claims play out with an impartial trier fact looking at these issues.
Okay, we'll go to Ashley, and then I'll come over to this side of the room.
Mayor, given the number of lawsuits that came from former internal candidates for the job, are you putting a full stop on no internal candidates applying for the top position, or are you going to consider anyone from within the department?
Good question, Ashley. I'll repeat it just so. Really, the questions I understand it is, as we conduct a national search, am I putting a full stop on internal candidates and strictly looking at external candidates? And the answer is no, I'm not putting full stops on anyone to apply. If you believe you are qualified to apply, I use the term standard of excellence a lot in some of my speeches. If you believe you bring the standard of excellence that we want to see here in Seattle, you should apply. I did make it very clear that the kind of culture change that I'm looking at, one has to question whether that can come from an internal candidate. I'm just going to be candid with you. The city is no stranger to this. You could look at former Chief Gil Kurlikowski, who came from the outside. You could look at former Chief Kathleen O'Toole, who came from the outside. There has been a history in our city where to create the kind of change that we want, we have gone external. So I'm being open and candid there, and we'll see what candidates we can.
We'll go to Erica, and then Chris.
Two quick questions.
I have a feeling this is going to be a long day.
That's the law.
Go ahead.
Two quick questions. I heard that John O'Neill and Eric Barnum were clearing out their desks today. Can you comment on whether they are out or changing positions? And then can you explain what special projects means?
Sure. I think everyone heard the question. Good? No? Erica heard rumors about Assistant Chiefs, Deputy Chief Barton and Assistant Chief O'Neill. John O'Neill, whether they're on administrative leave or whether they're going to be in the positions. And the second part was?
What is special projects? And
what is special projects?
Will Chief Diaz retain his salary?
Very good. And will Chief Diaz retain his salary? So let me take the second half first, since my brain works that way. Those details on salary and what special projects are being discussed right now, we'll have better clarity on that. That's a decision that we'll work out with the interim chief. I've made it very clear to the interim chief that we have 27 years of a strong police officer and chief here, and we want to be able to use that in some areas of concern, but we'll work those details out. With respect to the assistant chief status, deputy chief status, I'm not really in a position today to talk about their situations. First of all, that will be addressed by the new chief. And I want to make it clear, implicit in your question. We're actually going to run the department. There's no asterisks, parentheses or asterisks by Chief Roche. She is a proven national expert in this space. So we are confident that she will look at the issues, the personnel issues, the allegations, and make strategic decisions, and I trust her discretion there, so I'm not in a position to say how that's going to play out today.
Chris?
Mayor?
Yes, Chris.
You have obviously several active investigations into the police department, and you now have an interim chief. How do you possibly tell recruits to come to Seattle?
Well, we are. I want to repeat those numbers right now. You know, you just like putting my sound bites with these numbers. There are applications. Around 17, 19 applications a day compared to 5 or 6 last year. And so to answer your question directly, Chris, we have a wonderful police department. That's how we recruit. We are on the cutting edge. We pay a competitive salary. We believe in social justice. We believe in community-based policing. We have a city-wide body of employees that embrace the values we believe in. And Seattle's a great city. Ignore the rain you see today, Chris. Okay, we're going to get a good weekend this weekend, and we have a marvelous hand that we're doing as a city. So I ask police officers, be part of the solution. We're recruiting constantly. I recruit every time I see someone that might have an inkling toward public safety. If you look at many cities, they struggle with strong leadership at the top. As I said in my earlier remarks, Chief Diaz gets calls all the time. He's nationally respected as a police chief. So we tell recruits, come help us improve this city, be part of the solution, and I feel very optimistic our recruiting numbers will continue to trend the way they are.
Mayor, I think Chief Rohr.
Oh, please, yes.
So I'm going to try and live up to that title of national expert on recruiting here. I had 9 years at the police academy, and I spent a lot of time talking to new recruits coming in the door. And you can imagine, after the murder of George Floyd and the uprisings, people kept saying, why on earth would anybody want to be a cop today? And I sat with my recruits and I said, this is the best time to become a cop. We are on the verge of change in eras. Don't you want to be part of pushing this new change? When I look at what's happening inside the Seattle Police Department right now, I know there is some turbulence, but there is some incredible work being done. And I have to do a shout out to my friend Senator Lubbock. We worked tirelessly for 2 years to get state law changed so that we can implement flexible work schedules, which all the research across the nation internationally tells us that is our strongest recruiting tool for women, is to have flexible work schedules. I hope that we are able to work together as a team to make Seattle Police Department the most attractive department for women to come to work. Now, I want lots of people. We need lots of diversity. We need diversity of experience. But Seattle Police Department, if I can do it, is going to be the top recruiter for female recruits. This is going to be the place people want to come to work. I'm confident of that.
And we'll go to Amari, and then David, and then Ashley.
Thank you. Media. So you had mentioned, I think the number there on the sheet said that homicides year to year, now we're down 44%. Chief Diaz has over 2 decades just in community working with a lot of different groups and organizations. A lot of those organizations and community members are on the front line right now in violence disruption here in the city of Seattle, especially in the neighborhoods that we represent, the Central District and the South End of Seattle. We know that a lot of these organizations, members, community leaders, and everything else are being intentional in trying to fight back. And that's not the only reason why numbers are down, but it's a very important reason. What consideration are you taking in this transfer here into Interim Chief Rohr to keep these community connections in place that are very critical in driving down the homicide and violent crime rate in our city, and specifically the Central District and the South End? Interim Chief Rohr, my question for you is, these relationships are there. What is your plan now, coming in new as an insider, outsider, to be able to gain the trust that it's just not transferable from Chief Diaz to yourself? What are your plans coming into our community?
So I'll take a first stab at that, Ray. Thank you for the question. It's a critical question, and I want to concede a conclusion implicit in your question. That is, there are community-based organizations that are coming from geography, coming from homes, coming from families, coming from communities, many of whom have been traumatized, have experienced violence, helping us address the issue of violence. They are valuable partners. That's embedded in everything that we do. It does not center around one person, by the way. Although you have been a remarkable leader in this space, it cannot center around one person. It has to be embedded in everything that we do. So we remain committed to this approach. It's a smart approach. It's an effective approach. And I know specifically the people doing this work, and I'm incredibly impressed by their, not only their heart, but their actual actions, what they're out doing. We know in Rainier Beach, for example, that some of them put their own lives in harm's way in trying to be violence interrupters, experiencing violence by themselves around the safe at Rainier Beach. So we feel confident that this great work will continue. Chief Roy, if you'd like to say anything in that regard.
Sir, I appreciate you bringing that up because you're absolutely right. The Seattle Police Department cannot drive the crime rate down by itself. We cannot do that without partnering with the community. I'm extremely grateful that there's already groups in place, there's leaders in place. I read in the newspaper about the work you've done, the sacrifices that your teams have made, and I am very anxious to sit down with you and make concrete plans about how do we continue this relationship and can we increase it. I was the gang unit commander in King County a long time ago when gangs were first becoming a problem, and one of the things that I learned firsthand is we cannot do this without the community and people who are inside of the community telling us what's going on, telling us what we need to know. We can't do it without you. So 100%, we're going to continue to work with you. I appreciate the work you've already done, and I hope we can continue going forward.
It's sort of difficult to get qualified applicants or people that we feel comfortable leading the Seattle Police Department. What's going to be different this time?
Good. I hope everyone heard the question, so I'll answer the question and sort of repeat it. So why not let the investigation that MFR are conducting before we make such a change? As an experienced attorney, playing a role in many investigations and through a discovery process, you do not need it to be complete before you reach certain conclusions. You have talked to the investigator preliminarily on, well, how's it going, that kind of conversation. We concluded as an executive team, and I don't make these decisions in a vacuum, we decided as an executive team, if our goal is to achieve a standard of excellence in police, in safety, and changing culture, what makes sense right now? We do not need to wait for the termination of an investigation. We do not need to evaluate that. And if we do it right, and by that I mean making sure that Chief Diaz is afforded his due process, he comes with a lot of community support that he has earned. I want to make that clear. Support that he has earned, inside the department and outside the department. That we do not need the completion of a full investigation to reach the conclusion that we're about trying to move forward, and I have a sense of urgency in creating the safe city that I demand we have. That's why we didn't wait. The second part of the question I forgot. I'm going to have to do that.
Seattle's ability to attract top recruits or people who are going to...
Thank you. Well, I would disagree with your premise. I think with the last search we had 3 outstanding candidates. And I signaled, I encouraged Chief Diaz to apply. Some people might have read that in the recruiting world as, well, I'm not going to apply against a strong, effective internal candidate. So, you know, the recruiting world is not rocket science. People, the first thing people want to know is, it is truly an open, transparent process, and do I have a shot? And they do. So I'm very confident using our ability to network. And again, I think I mentioned in our opening remarks that former Chief Kathleen O'Toole will help us as well. And to be candid with you, I talk to mayors across the country all the time. And so, believe it or not, people love Seattle. People would like to come here to this great city. I can brag about this place all I want. So we feel very confident we're going to get a top-notch candidate. And I look forward to it.
Ashley?
So just a few weeks ago, Mayor, you said that you wanted to allow for due process, and now we're told...
I'm sorry.
Sorry,
said-
just a few weeks ago, you said that you wanted to allow for due process for the investigation to go through, and now we're all hearing almost overnight that, you know, Chief Diaz is stepping down. So what changed?
Nothing changed. I thought I answered that question. Let me say it in a better way. For the last month or so, even maybe before that, we are constantly asking ourselves, how can we be better? How can we do better? Not just the police department. I have north of 41 departments that I ask the same question to at our cabinet meetings. I'm always evaluating. I'm evaluated every day. My executive team are evaluated every day. So no one event sparked there was no epiphany that said we have to make a change. It was a result of deliberative thought, strategic thinking, a commitment to excellence, and we decided to make a leadership change.
And can I just add, can you tell us more about Diaz's new role? What rank will he be?
I think I didn't answer that earlier too. So we are discussing that now.
Okay.
So we're discussing that now. So I'm sure there'll be some follow-up requests on that. And so we will, again, I want to capitalize on his remarkable experiences. Being a 27-year vet within the police department, I want to capitalize on Interim Chief Rohr's expertise in leading and see where there's a good fit. And I don't want to prematurely thwart that right now. So that's the discussion that we're having right now.
Go to Lauren and then Guy.
So 2 questions. First and foremost, unfinished business. What is going to happen moving forward with Daniel Otter's case, since there was an announcement scheduled to happen soon? And 2, the emotional side of this. Clearly, like, you can see the emotion in both of your eyes. Was this the hardest decision you've had to make as mayor?
Thanks for that question. Dealing with Officer Otterer, that again, we are going to, the Chief Rohr will be fully briefed on everything. I'm sure she is aware of the situation. She will make the decision as the process allows. We don't thwart that decision, and I expect she'll make that decision. I don't want to say a few weeks, but you'll make it in a few weeks. No, I think in a few weeks. I'm going to say that's usually historically. Let's talk about the second part of your question. I don't know the answer to this. I lead with this. It is, I believe in Chief Diaz. He's first and foremost a friend. And I believe he's extremely talented as well. And he did inherit a culture. He inherited a culture. A lot of the issues, a lot of the allegations certainly predates his tenure as a chief. So all of the decisions that I make, and it doesn't even have to be at that level, by the way. It could be mid-range manager. Whenever there's anything that resembles an adverse employment action, yeah, these are tough decisions. I have an HR background. Do a lot of work in employment law. These are very emotional. So yes, it's a very emotional decision, but I continue to believe that Chief Diaz will still add incredible value to this city. And I'm not ashamed to say that he is a friend. So, emotional, yes. But I believe it's the right thing to do for the betterment of the city. And again, I want to thank Chief Rohr for stepping up.
Take a few more questions, and I want to prioritize people who haven't asked questions yet, so I think I said Guy next.
Hi, Mayor Harrell.
Hello.
This is a time of reckoning for the Seattle Police Department. Will you now finally apologize for the 2020 protests and how the Seattle Police Department brutalized many protesters and members of the public? And how can you reassure them that we won't see more excessive use of force on such a big scale the next time we have a lot of protests in the street?
Thank you for the question. So, with respect to the 2020 protests, on behalf of the City of Seattle, as the highest executive, I do apologize if any of the actions of the city employees, the police department, violated people's constitutional rights. I was on the other side of this incident as a lawyer for many years, protecting people's right to protest, right to speak. I was fully committed and made sure I hired the right people that aligned themselves with those same values. I was just born 8 blocks from here. I've seen us some of the best times and some of the worst times. Those are painful memories for a lot of people. And so I'm confident that once again, if we talk about these openly, talk about our soft underbelly, so to speak, where we are vulnerable, that's the only way we can get better. And so we are very bullish on data and use of force incidents. You may recall that I was the author of the racial profiling bill to make sure that certain people are not profiled in terms of who are charged and who are prosecuted. So we will remain committed to this work. Again, thank you for your question, and I feel pretty excited about the future for us.
Go to Connor, and then Jonathan, and then Matt.
I actually had a question for Interim Chief Thur. What are your top priorities during your time with the Seattle Police Department?
Well, I know for right now, for the first couple of weeks, it's going to be entirely focused on listening to people, meeting with people face to face, both internally and in the community. I'm going to rely on Chief Diaz to help me make sure that I reach out to all the community members that he's been working with directly. So I'm going to be doing a lot of listening. I'm also going to be looking for opportunities to start work on our flexible work schedules, because recruiting is, right now, it's a critical need. And that's something that I can do relatively quickly that I think will have a very quick impact. We were already, the recruiting numbers are starting to get better. The contract has been resolved, so I want to grab that wave of momentum and keep building with it. But really, truly, I'm going to say 2 things. I need to listen and learn, because I don't have all the information I need to make decisions yet. I need to talk to the people who are on the street, to the people who live and work in the community.
Jonathan?
Same time, if this becomes a distraction, why not just move on from Chief Diaz? And how do you make sure that his presence doesn't cause problems for the rest of SPD from moving on and taking this fresh start, fresh step?
Thank you for the question. Because I believe that Chief Diaz has incredible value to add to this city. And I think he has life experiences and leadership experiences that are still an asset that we want to capitalize upon. I believe he remains committed to protecting people in this city that is so critical to this kind of work. And for those reasons, we would love for him to stay on and lend us his expertise. I'm not going to mince words there.
Okay, Matt?
2 questions, one for the mayor, one for the chief. Mayor, I think it's following up on Deborah and David's question. We're still looking for that straw. And David asks, why not let the investigations complete? So I have a political question for you. In 2 years from now, you're going to seek re-election. Did you not want to have this specter of SPD and its problems going into this election, into your re-election campaign? Was that is that part of the decision?
Fair question. No. No. That's my answer. I make decisions based on logic, strategy, the need for effectiveness. I've been elected 4 times in this city. I've been around the block a few times. The needs for this city outweigh a political agenda. We believe this is the right thing to do. And again, I want to thank these 2 fine human beings back of me for helping me lead this city. My style of leadership are to hire and be around strong people. I have a team. I try to push my team. I have to keep up with it. So it wasn't a political decision. It's a decision we think is in the best interest of this city and in the best interest of this department.
And I'll follow up with Chief Diaz. Chief, you are the president of the PERF, and you have a lot of connections through that, as well as all the connections the mayor talked about. Do you hope to be a police chief in another city somewhere?
You know what, right now I think it's just taking a little bit of time for myself. I've had some medical issues as well that I've had some bouts with some lung issues that have gone on for over a year, because I think I work too much. So I'll be able to assess that and be able to deal with that. But I do think there's still a lot to offer, and I just want to make sure that the city gets everything that I want to be able to help out with. And then I'll assess what it looks like for maybe another city. I don't know. But right now, I think it's also just kind of taking a little bit of time for myself. So thank you.
We'll go to Andy, and I think Jadon, did you have a question? Or
Andy from Public Cola. I've been talking to Seattle police officers, and there's you talked about a culture of retribution, and that there's been accusations.
I don't think I've used that term, culture of retribution, but go ahead.
Go ahead.
I didn't talk about it at all. Did I? Did I say it? Retribution?
I said retaliation.
Retaliation.
Oh, retaliation.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, there you go.
And so, you know, there's talk of the OPA investigation system being used against people in retaliation. Will you also consider looking at leadership of OPA and OIG as you're looking at the top leadership and making changes?
Yeah, fair question. Right now, I am not. What we are looking at, however, is the whole accountability system. Is it effective? I'm not so much worried about the personnel of the people. They are pretty effective leaders, but the system, it's a fair question to ask, can we make it better? And so I'm asking my executive team to examine that. But it's not something we're working on like tomorrow, the next day. That's not on the chopping block, so to speak, right now. It's a fair question to have with the city council as they look at the budget as well. To address the budget issue that many of you have written about, we do have to look at the way we do business in the city. In every aspect of our operations, we have to be more effective, we have to be efficient. So those two organizations' accountability are not beyond that kind of evaluation.
So it's a factual question. When did you first approach Chief Rar about this possibility of doing this job?
When did we first approach? Sure. So let me lead up to the direct answer. Within the last month or so, our executive team were looking at, as I tried to describe earlier, how should we handle this to be the most effective, to create the most effective department that we can. I believe there were discussions with Chief Rar maybe a week or so ago about that as a possibility. And put that in our think tank, and we were ecstatic that someone of her caliber would be interested in serving the city of Seattle, and we continued the discussion for the last week.
And Jadon, the last question.
Do you have a timeline of finding the next permanent chief?
The timeline for the next chief, we will start next week the process by which we begin a search, and I hope to, I'm going to get in trouble on this one, but I hope to, I'm going to say 4 to 6 months, and I'm going to ask some of my people that I get in trouble. I'm going to say 4 to 6 months. I got some confidence there. So, you know, this process, typically, the historical practice is it can take around 4 to 6 months, and so that's sort of the time period.
What will a question for Chief Rar
now be?
I'll answer. What would Chief Diaz's title now be? So again, the details of that, we're having discussions right now with the interim chief, and we'll be more than happy to provide you information on that as well.
I mean, will he be called an assistant chief or deputy chief?
TBD, to be determined.
And will the Office of Inspector General continue their investigation into the complaint against him for the hiring of his chief of staff that launched yesterday?
Yeah. We're not, there's no way we will thwart in any way, interfere with any ongoing complaints that have been made recently or not so recently. Those processes will continue, and we encourage the due process implications that come about when these things occur. So we're always supportive of due process rights.
Quick question for Interim Chief Rar. There's been a lot of discussion over this press conference about sort of praising Chief Diaz, and you've mentioned the need to recruit women through things like flexible schedules. Can you respond to, you know, without specifically getting into the allegations, do you have concerns about the culture of SPD and allegations of a culture of misogyny, and how will you address that?
I'll be honest with you, I have concerns about the culture of all police departments. I think we are all trying to do better. I think it's a natural thing that happens when you have a profession that is dominated by one gender for, you know, half a century, 3/4 of a century, and making those transitions are really hard. And so I don't think Seattle Police Department is worse or better than others. I think we have work to do in every department. One of the reasons I was very anxious to jump in is I think the Seattle Police Department is open to doing something meaningful and implementing a systemic change, because we can keep playing whack-a-mole every time there's an allegation here or there, but until we change the system, we're not going to have meaningful change. And that was one of the things that really drew me to this opportunity, is to actually do something that's going to matter.
Interim Chief Moore, you live in Bellevue.
You know that because you've been to my house.
I have. And so I want to ask, you looked across the water, Lake Washington at Seattle. Is it important, Mayor, that the Chief of Police, the person who takes the job permanently, lives in the city of Seattle?
It would be ideal, but I believe there's legal restrictions on requiring a person to live in certain jurisdictions, or showing somehow a prejudice towards someone based on their residence. I believe through HR law and practice you cannot require that, but it certainly would be ideal for them to know the people of this city, the culture of this city, and to certainly be a resident. I'll take some more questions. I'll just get more about it. So go on.
Yes, Interim Chief
I'm going to take over again the sign as we get to it, so no more jumping in. I'll leave it.
My understanding is it will be up to, because it's the highest rank that Chief Diaz had was lieutenant, unless you make a proactive decision, he would then go back to lieutenant. So do you have intention to then promote him to assistant chief, or will he start his new role as a lieutenant?
I don't know yet because I don't have all the
mic, please.
I'm sorry. I don't know yet because I have not been fully briefed on all the situations. I don't know what the HR rules are yet. I start tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Hopefully by 5 o'clock I'll have a better grip on that. I'm not sure yet.
I could give you a little clarification.
Sure. Thanks.
Any chief, to revert back to the last position, which in this case would be lieutenant, the rules also allow for discretion for that chief, or even for an assistant chief. And that's why I'm intentionally being vague, because what's most important than the title, for me as mayor, is most important is the body of work that we want the chief to lend his expertise. And so that's why we're working through those issues now. We want it to be meaningful, and the title implication is not driving it. What's driving it is the body of work we want done.
Isn't salary part of that with the title of chief?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Guy?
And just to be clear, I'm sorry, just to be clear. And what I want to make crystal clear is that there is not a legal requirement that you put a chief on special assignment down to the last. There's a historical practice down to the last, right? There is discretion on how that is handled. And the rules allow that. We are always in conference with our HR department and our law department and how we place people. So we're having those discussions. Yes, sir.
I have two questions. First, you have already pledged that you will not downscale the police department to meet the huge budget hole. Are you concerned about the optics of disproportionately investing in police when programs of the Equitable Development Initiative are, their funding is being proposed to be frozen, and funding to communities of color is being threatened? And secondly, do you think the internal culture and toxicity, whether it's sexism or racism, for employees of the police department, is that correlated with how they serve the community? And you see like disproportionately arrests of Black and Indigenous people, or use of force, or a lack of investigation for sexual assaults. Do you think those two issues of internal culture and external impact are correlated?
Very good question, a little complicated, but I'll give it a shot. So, as mayor, we calibrate the first part of your question. We calibrate the need for effective, strong public safety through a police department, through other means as well, community-based organizations. So I agree with the premise that just having an abundance of police officers is not the effective way to achieve effective public safety. Having lived in 98118 and 98144 most of my life, I understand that we don't, and looking at the country of over-policing in certain areas and use of force, that we're always cognizant of the fact that we do not want to harm the people we're trying to protect. My commitment to public safety is because the fact of the matter is that many black and brown people, many underrepresented people, live in unsafe conditions. I'm committed to making sure these communities are safe, and that's why I passed laws such as the racial profiling law. So we are confident that we calibrate the needs to protect the community and not over-police the community in everything that we do. The second part of your question, I think you're right that in order for the police department to be the police department that I envision, that my executive team are working hard, that the department is working hard to do, the change has to come from within as well. Quite candidly, when I took the reins of leadership, I had to do a lot of external focus. In some of our unhoused populations, there was a proliferation of violence. We had to go right into external mode. But I believe the level of excellence that I talk about cannot be achieved unless I look the officers in the eyes, command staff in the eyes, and say, can we do better? What does it take? So this internal focus, yes, is critical toward the external work that needs to be done. And therein lies the opportunity we have under Chief Rohr, and I'm excited about doing that work.
Okay, there was a question in the way back.
Just a logistical question, and you might have answered this already, but whose idea was it for Chief Diaz?
Whose idea was it to Chief Diaz? So I make decisions with my executive team. It wasn't, and we discussed this with Chief Diaz. So I would say it was a collaborative effort with the chief and my executive team.
When did you approach the chief?
So I'm gonna. It looks as though now we're just getting into some of the specifics about the communication, and I don't know how relevant that is. So when did I approach the chief? I approached the chief about 2.5 years ago and asked him to stick on and be my chief. That's when I approached him. So we have ongoing discussions. We evaluate everything that the chief's doing, and so the recent discussions I have with him are no different than the discussion I had with him a month or two ago. So again, I think that there seems to be this perhaps concern that there was an epiphany that was reached yesterday or the day before, or an incident occurred. And it just wasn't the case. It just wasn't the case. That, as I've tried to say on four occasions now, I think this is just in the best interest of the city. The interest of the city has to transcend everything else. And again, I want to thank the chief for looking at it, saying what they did. So we're just sort of spinning around. Thank you. I don't like leaving questions unanswered.
I have a question about the rest of the command staff.
Okay, go ahead.
There was an Assistant Chief Davis that was put on administrative leave last week. Does that have anything to do with what you're discussing today?
Yeah. So the question is Assistant Chief, whether whether that incident had anything to do with it. Not in and of by itself. That is part and parcel of, I think, a larger part and parcel of numerous allegations made against the department, all of which we take very seriously. Numerous allegations, both in terms of harassment, discrimination, hostile work environment issues, and so it wasn't that incident. And the fact of the matter is that I know from speaking to the chief that every time there's an allegation, we have to put our arms around each other and talk to the executive team about what's going on over there. How can we be of assistance? The city council, they are concerned about these issues as well. But it wasn't one incident that, again, that triggered this decision that I made.
I have a question.
Yes.
What
You're not a
happens
member of the press.
When I am a member of the community.
Go ahead.
My question is, what happens if all of these allegations turn out to be unfounded and just complaints in the department?
Fair question. So let me repeat it, Sir Reverend Walden's question. What if, through the due process, the allegations, the numerous allegations, are unproven or baseless? That's a good question. I just don't know at this point. I mean, in fairness to the chief, he's entitled to due process. I hope that I spoke at length about his 27 years of service. You saw his authenticity. Let me also make it very clear, there's no record that he's done anything wrong. That hasn't been proven anywhere, to my knowledge. Okay? So we're trying to, with the chief, trying to improve the safety of this city. So we'll see how the litigation plays out. And we also don't shame or ridicule people that make allegations. We make that clear. And one of the factors that we weighed into is whether, as allegations unfold, whether we are keeping the chief in a position where people have a fear of retaliation. And that factored into our decision.
I'm not pressed either, but can I say something?
Sure.
I just lost my train of thought.
Well, come back.
So of course my feelings are I disagree with what's going on. This is an incredible chief. And so I feel like nobody's safe in the police department, because if somebody can make allegations after allegations and then there's too many, you're out. Today, and you know I work with recruits, and I disagree with a lot. Recruitment isn't up. And today I went to a graduation, and it was unbelievable. The chiefs and everybody came up to me saying they backed this chief. They're shocked at him. The due process didn't happen, no matter how you guys explain it. And it's wrong that he's getting the brunt of it. And I even have dealt with a lot of recruits that have even graduated and been on the streets that have left the department, that are so unhappy, and it has nothing to do with him. So many. I have 40-some text messages and phone calls. My phone is blown up. I don't want to talk to anybody. They're upset. They want to know what they're going to do. I'm shocked, Bruce. I'm just shocked. Due process didn't happen. He has been made guilty, and no matter what happens, and I know for a fact that he's going to be proven innocent, and a lot of other people are. It's a little too late. You know, I'm not the chief, but I would say the hell with all of this, and I would be out of there, and I would have the biggest lawsuit ever. This is wrong. Nobody is safe in the Seattle Police Department. Nobody. Who's going to want to come here? Who? I don't think anybody that really cares. I think they're going to want the title. But this is setting us back so far.
First, because I've known you since I was 13, you can call me Bruce. I respect your opinion. I know you're passionate about this.
And you were 13 and I was 12.
Okay. I respect your opinion. I did call you earlier today, as a matter of fact. I don't know if you.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Just to have a conversation. That there are community members, like Ms. Beach, that believe in the chief. Because he, as I said earlier, he earned it. And the due process, the process continues on the allegations, numerous allegations. So I respect your opinion.
But is everybody not safe in the department? I mean, if there's allegations made on somebody over and over, are they out without being able to defend themselves? I mean, I work in the department, and am I at risk for retaliation also for even speaking out?
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons why we actually made the move to make sure that people making claims don't fear retaliation. But it's sort of a rhetorical question. I believe that, again, as a lawyer, I believe in due process. And so I don't believe people are guilty just by allegations, but I have to respect the process. So I'll just sort of leave it there.
Okay, we've got to wrap it up now.
Can I ask a quick question about one of the?
No, we got to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.